Oh, hey kids. Sorry, I'm all wet. I guess I should explain what happened. You see, I was fishing in a little rowboat on the lake in the park, and suddenly there was a strong tug on the fishing line. I started to tug back, and I tried to reel in the fish. It must have been huge because it felt so heavy. The fish was tugging and tugging against me. I tried as hard as I could to reel it in, but, well, I wasn't strong enough. The fish tugged so hard it pulled me into the water. I had to let go of the fishing pole so I wouldn't be pulled too far down. I lost the fish and my fishing pole. Now I'm all wet and feel so weak. But hey, at least I didn't end up shipwrecked or something like Paul. Not only did he get wet, he almost died. This is a wild story, so hold on tight as you hear the tale from the book of Acts, chapter 27. Paul and his friends continued traveling all over the world, telling people about Jesus. Because of that, God's church grew bigger and bigger. Isn't that great? Unfortunately, not everyone was happy about it. Many of the Jewish leaders didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and they wanted to do everything possible to stop the church from growing. The Jewish leaders schemed and plotted and found a way to have Paul arrested. They accused him of being a troublemaker and demanded that Paul be put to death. It wasn't true. Paul hadn't done anything wrong, and he wanted to prove it. So Paul demanded his rights to be put on trial in front of Caesar. Only problem was Caesar was far away in the city of Rome. Paul had to travel by ship to get to Rome. Paul was put on a ship with some other prisoners also headed to Rome. As the ship was sailing, a huge storm blew in. Its winds were as strong as a hurricane. Day after day, wave after wave crashed into the boat and it began tearing it apart. The sailors had never seen a storm like this. Paul could tell that they were scared to death. So he stood in front of them and said, "I belong to God and serve Him. Last night His angel stood beside me. The angel said, 'Do not be afraid, Paul. You must go on trial in front of Caesar. God has shown His grace by sparing the lives of those sailing with you.'" Peter continued, "Men, be brave and have faith in God. It will happen just as He told me. But we must run the ship onto the beach of some island." The sailors had a different idea. They wanted to get off the ship as fast as possible before it broke up and sank. So they pretended like they were going to lower the anchors. But instead, they quietly lowered the lifeboat into the water so they could sneak into it and row for shore. But Paul saw what they were doing and told the soldiers about it. You see, if the sailors were all gone, the ship would have surely sunk and everyone on it would have died. So the soldiers cut the lifeboat loose and let it float away empty so the sailors couldn't leave. When the morning came, they saw an island with a sandy beach, so they decided to do what Paul said and run the ship onto the beach. But before they could get there, the ship hit the sandy bottom of the sea and got stuck. Huge waves pounded the back of the ship and broke it to pieces. The soldiers' plans to kill Paul and the other prisoners to keep them from swimming away and escaping. But the commander had become a friend to Paul and wanted to save his life. He stopped the soldiers from carrying out their plan. The commander ordered everyone to jump in the water first and swim to land. Then he told everyone who couldn't swim to jump in and grab a hold of the broken pieces of the ship. And that is how everyone reached the island safely, just like God had promised. Not a single person on the ship died. Man, this story teaches us so many things. We learned that God keeps his promises and that he wants to guide us and he will protect us. We can also see how strong God is in our weakness. I bet Paul wasn't feeling too strong during that storm and while shipwrecked on the shore, but God was still strong. Has there ever been a time you felt weak and God strengthened you? At some point, it will happen to all of us. In fact, 2 Corinthians 12:9 says this, "And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." 2 Corinthians 12:9. These are actually Paul's words. He said God's strength was made perfect in his weakness, so he can glory or celebrate his weakness because Christ's power rests on him. Isn't that strange? Who is happy to be weak? But it is in our weakness that we understand our need for God. When we know we need him, that's when he comes in and shows us how strong and mighty he is. When we have no food, he provides just enough. When we are tired, he provides a means of rest. When we are tempted, he provides a way of escape. When we are sad, he can provide joy. When we are at our weakest, he gives us his strength. It's okay for us not to be the strongest or the smartest or the best. We learn to rely on God's strength because his strength is enough. Okay. Yeah, no, you're definitely enjoying that. No question.
63.
You're enjoying this far too much.